What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Resleevables 5th edition episode. I'm your host, Cedric Phillips, at Cedric A. Phillips on all the things, and I'm joined by 5th edition Flight's biggest fan. That's you, Patrick Sullivan at Basic Mountain. We're finally here.
Oh, we're ready to go.
Yes, we are.
First core set in Magic's history to feature new art.
Yep.
It was done for essentially financial reasons.
Yes.
We'll talk about that more. And you know, I really dislike denigrating the work of any artist.
Sure.
Particularly those who work on Magic. It's a game that's given me so much, and the art, the flavor text has enriched my life in so many different ways.
But
there are a few pieces in this set that are playing it a little fast and loose.
maybe a touch.
But you know what? Those add to the art as well.
It adds to the history.
One truism in game design is you can't appreciate the highs without the lows.
Okay.
And
okay.
we are going to have a low lasagna here that we'll get into in a little bit.
I've never heard that term before. Just makes me want lasagna now, but that's a whole different thing. 5th edition is a weird set because it has all this new artwork that's been commissioned. There's a ton of it that we're going to go over. There's a lot of cards in this set, like a lot. Like it's the biggest core set up until this time, and I think it's the biggest core set in history. I would argue it's way too big. It's like over 400 cards.
It's huge.
Yeah, it's gigantic. Now, I'm sure they have their reasons for making something this large. I don't think they would ever do that again, certainly nowadays. But this set is gigantic. There's a brand new set of rules that are coming in that were introduced earlier that were called the 5th edition rules. So that's a little bit confusing. And then there's just a whole lot of facts and mumbo jumbo about what's going on in this core set. This particular core set, it's tough to say if it was the most important in Magic history, but I think it was probably the most important in Magic history up until this time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, we're finally reaching the point in Magic's history where Type 2 or standard in today's parlance is becoming a much bigger feature of the game, both in organized play settings and just finding games at your local shop.
Sure.
I think 5th edition highlights some of the struggles that core sets have had over the course of Magic's history, which is a set of cards for standard. That's kind of the rub of a core set.
Okay.
And I think that speaks to the size of the set too, is, well, of course, we would want to have a lot of cards legal come out of this.
Sure.
That makes standard more rich, and it, in its own way, can preserve the value of collections for cards that aren't nearly good enough to play in vintage or extended or type 1 or whatever you want to call it, but could find a home in standard. At the same time, the set is still cards people are collecting and opening and wanting to be excited about.
Yep.
And those two ends are kind of at odds with each other if you aren't willing to print new cards.
That's true.
And as we go over the set here, you'll see that there's a lot of cards that are in here that I guess would be potentially fun for a standard, but they're not exactly the most exciting things to open. And the stuff in here that is exciting to open, we've seen it all before. It's just reprints.
Yep.
And so trying to balance those two competing needs is very challenging. Magic didn't really get right until, I would argue, M10, where they finally said, okay, we're going to add some new cards to this. And then it can be a combination of new stuff and things we want to bring back for standard or things that we think would draft especially well or whatever.
Yep.
But I think a lot of what makes 5th edition so rough is trying to accomplish two very hard things at the same time.
Well, we're going to go over those hard things and a whole bunch more as we start with the facts of 5th edition. All right, everybody, we are here for the facts of 5th edition. But before we start with the facts of the set, we got to do the facts of our sponsor.
Thank you to our sponsor, Tales of Adventure. You can find their website over at toamagic.com. And if you're on Twitter, you're going to be wanting to follow the store owner over at TOA Michael. He regularly posts sales, deals, and inventory before it gets on the website. So if you're on Twitter, make sure to be following them. Over at Tales of Adventure, you can find individual cards, supplies, sealed product, anything that you could need. They're high-end is individually scanned. So you can find the card in the condition that looks best for you, have the confidence that the card you're receiving will be not just graded, but something you can see before you buy. All orders placed inside the United States come with free tracking and shipping. And make sure to be using promo code RESLEEVABLES at checkout for 8% off of all orders. Tales of Adventure, Eternal lives here.
Alrighty, let's kick things off with when 5th edition was released. Now, of course, it's a core set. We all know that. But it was released on March 24th, 1997. So almost 30 years ago. That's crazy to think. 5th edition is the first core set with cards having new artwork, as we discussed right at the top. There is new artwork for 218 cards in 5th edition. Now, you would say that's a lot of cards for new artwork. How many cards are in the set? Good question. 449 white bordered ones. There's 165 commons, 132 uncommons, 132 rares, and 20 basic lands. That's a lot of those.
132 rares is so many.
That's a lot of rares. And a lot of them are bad.
And they're all reprints.
It's also true. Hard to get excited about any of that, but that's what's going on here. 5th edition was designed by Mike Elliott and Bill Rose. Elliott was the lead on the set, and then 5th edition was developed by Mark Rosewater, Scaff Elias, Robert Guchera, and William Jokic. And as we have seen over most of the sets now at this point, the art direction for 5th edition was done by Sue Ann Harkey. 5th edition is by far the largest core set up until this point, surpassing both 4th edition and Chronicles. Quick card count on those for you folks. 5th edition, as mentioned, 449 cards, technically 429 without lands. 4th edition was 363 cards, and then Chronicles, which was an extension of 4th edition, was 116 cards. So they really went for it.
Yeah. I still don't know, to back up for a moment.
Yeah.
What is meant by design and development when you're talking about a set that is entirely composed of reprints?
I would ask you, person who designs games for a living.
Well, development, I could see development meaning, okay, we're going to test some of these cards that we're adding into standard. Do we like them or not?
Okay, sure.
Are we going to add this or cut that? That you could say is development in a certain way.
Okay.
Design, I really don't know what that could possibly mean.
Maybe that's why there's only 2.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, I would love to be a designer on a set like this.
Where you're just putting all previous cards into it.
Just 6 weeks at the beach, baby.
Sure.
And then I can turn over a file at the last minute. It'd take me a half an hour.
Yeah, this looks good. Put all these reprints in there. How bad could it be?
Yeah, Birds of Paradise again. Great. Yeah, people love that thing.
Sure.
Next.
Sure.
This is so easy.
That's true. Yeah, normally I think we see more people on the design team, but yeah, this one only had Elliott and Rose on it. So yeah, maybe you don't need a lot of designers.
I don't even know what the second person would do. The first person is maybe an hour of work.
Sure.
Oh, total.
Okay.
And then the second person, I don't even know.
It's good to have a second set of eyes.
Sure.
That's all.
Okay. That's
so
fair.
Are you sure you want this in there? Yeah, I'm pretty sure. All right, good talk.
Anyway.
That's about it. To create 5th edition, of the 429 cards, only 235 appeared in 4th edition, which means over 100 cards were removed. The rest are cards from earlier sets like Ice Age, Arabian Nights, Antiquities, The Dark, Legends, Fallen Empires, Homelands, and Revised. It is worth noting that a few cards that were taken out of 4th edition but included in 5th edition are from Revised. So this is a bit of a mess here. Just cards coming from everywhere.
Right. And again, we're talking about an era before the internet was a source of information that people could use.
Yeah.
And it was important to be familiar with the contents of this set because it set the stage for what was legal and standard.
Yeah.
So you did kind of have to know. That's another issue with core sets in general is you typically want them to be very large, but the larger they are, the harder it is to pay attention to what's been reprinted.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the internet and, Gatherer, there's just more resources available. You can go onto Arena or Magic Online and sort of filter your search by standard legal.
Yeah.
If you're kind of in the loop at all, you can get most of the way, if not all the way there.
Yeah.
Back then, this was a mess.
This was probably super hard back then when you didn't have access to something like Scryfall.
Yeah.
Anything like that, right? Just how do I know? And again, with this set, with there being so many cards, yeah, I could see this just being a kind of a pain in the butt.
The good news is most of this set, you can still just bracket off and forget. Yeah. The cards are just not that powerful.
Okay.
But it is an issue with doing a core set of this size. I think it would be wrong to do anyway, to have a set that be this large. It's just too much to pay attention to,
Sure.
too much to track, too hard to collect, all that. But when you're talking about core sets specifically, you really run into some issues with how are we communicating what's legal and standard through this.
Yeah, that makes sense. Now, there were some key cards that were removed from the set that people were expecting to be removed. There were some key cards in general that are just gone. So let's talk about kind of the biggest offenders,
Mhm.
I think I would put it. So Strip Mine, smell you later.
Wow, finally.
Yeah, we're out from underneath that. Channel, gone. Mind Twist, gone. Sarah Angel, Swords of Plowshares, Lightning Bolt. No, I think Sarah Angel sticks out maybe the most there.
One of these things is not like the other.
I've had enough. It's gotta go. Okay, so those cards are gone. There were some cards that stayed around that people expected to maybe be removed, like Armageddon, which myself personally keep that thing around forever.
Mhm.
Wrath of God, and then strangely, from some of the research I found, Black Knight and White Knight.
We're at a time here where the pump knights and just, mono black necro with a bunch of protection from white, or white weenie with pump effects, and white knight and the pump knights from Fallen Empires and Ice Age. These were decks people played.
Okay.
I don't remember them being so frustrating that people were calling for them to be rotated out. It was a little repetitive that there were so many cards that were kind of the same, and they all had protection from color, which can be an annoying game feature some amount of time.
You can't really interact with them. It doesn't seem very fun.
But there is, I think, some amount of wanting to preserve the color pie here that's going on with some of these decisions.
Okay.
If white is supposed to be about symmetrical stuff, Wrath of God and then Armageddon, that's kind of the two sides of that. And if you say, well, we want Wrath of God for standard balancing, or we think it's a good thing to have around, that would really put a spotlight on removing Armageddon,
Okay.
which maybe you don't necessarily want to do. I think that you should. It's like not great to have that thing legal all the time.
It's not the best gameplay.
No, but I can understand the duality of the color pie being part of that.
Sure.
White Knight and Black Knight also serve that kind of role too, which is, well, white's opposed to black, black's opposed to white, and both of these creatures are kind of emblematic of what you would expect creatures in the colors to be like. White and black are kind of known for having small, for striking, like all these elements are kind of part of how their creatures work.
Yep.
And so again, it's another, well, this is doing some good color pie work and expression, even if we're kind of tired of these cards.
5th edition, and this is big. This is big news here. First core set without anti cards. It's over.
That's a better decision than getting rid of Strip Mine. And I think getting rid of Strip Mine's a really good decision.
I would agree. Several cards which were disliked by players for being too weak were also removed to make additional room for more popular cards. So if you're a big fan of the lace cycle, that's Pure Lace, Thought Lace, Death Lace, Chaos Lace, and Life Lace, I'm afraid I've got some bad news for you. Those are gone, along with really bad cards like Cyclopean Mummy and Wall of Wood and a bunch of other pretty bad cards. Now, there were some cards from Fallen Empires and Homelands that were, still in here that were pretty bad, which made people not love 5th edition. But again, when they decided to make it 449 cards, you're gonna have some stinkers.
Okay, I have a lot to add to this.
Okay, please feel free.
So I love getting rid of the laces
Okay.
because it's 5 rares.
Okay,
That's
sure.
just too much and too frustrating to open. And we're talking about reprints anyway, so any player that's been around for a while I'm guessing already has their playset of laces.
You think they're set on laces?
Probably good.
Okay.
Cyclopean Mummy is a weird one to call out because it's definitely in the top 50% of power level. It's unappealing, and there's a lesson there about cards being unappealing, but it's not actually weak.
Okay.
And I also don't like negotiating against the players
Okay, sure.
that certain cards are too weak. I'll give you a little story.
Okay.
So Andrew Brown, you know Andrew Brown.
I do know Andrew Brown. Works for
Before
Wizards of the Coast.
Yeah, before he was in charge of play design. This is many, many years ago. He was under my wing
Okay.
at Activision,
Okay.
working on a little trading card game. Never really came out. We're working on it together. And Andrew Brown, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed.
Yep.
First time working in game design. And obviously a very skilled competitive player. Pro Tour top 8
Yep.
and all that.
Really good at Magic.
So you want to feel like you're doing work. And there's got all these senior people. They're running the projects. They're in the meetings. They're meeting with, other people from other companies and sort of showing off how much they know about game design and how much they're thinking about things.
Okay.
And you want to show up and you want to say, here's some work I can do.
Nice. Okay.
So Andrew takes it upon himself to make a list of the 10 weakest cards in the file from his perspective.
Okay. Okay.
And he handed it to me.
Okay.
And I said, what do you want me to do with this?
Okay.
He goes, well, these are the 10 weakest cards. And I said, if we improve these 10 cards, there would simply be a new list of the 10 weakest cards.
Also true.
We cannot escape the reality that in our set, some of the cards will be the weakest.
Yeah, sure.
We can't do anything about that.
Yep.
That's how ranking things work.
Yeah, how it works. There has to be a worse thing.
So I don't like the idea of, now if designs are unappealing or confusing or high rarity, and the laces check all those boxes,
yep,
great. That is a really good argument for removing them from a set. But once you're talking about, Cyclopean Mummy, it's like, what are we doing here?
I think we need to sit down over lunch and have a discussion about the Mummy.
Well,
what are we going to do with this card?
I love the story of Cyclopean Mummy, which is if it dies, it just disintegrates.
Sure.
That's awesome. This is a mummy, it's been interned for however many hundreds of years.
Mummified.
Really good story.
Okay.
It's unappealing. Okay, but it's a low rarity card. Some of them are going to be unappealing. That's
Sure.
fine. So I have in my time experienced a lot of, people on the forums are saying this, or the players don't like this other thing.
Mm-hmm.
And my response has typically been some version of, do not show me that ever again. I don't, that is not interesting to me. So there you go.
Fair enough. Fifth edition, it was sold in 15 card boosties and 60 card starter decks. The booster art, which I know I've got a booster pack here. You have yours over there?
Oh yeah.
Okay. What is your booster pack art?
The king of all kings, Shivan Dragon.
Okay. I'm gonna go to my camera here. I believe I've got a Black Knight.
You do?
Knight? Yeah, okay,
Yep.
Great. Which means there's 3 left. Nightmare, Craw Giant, and your boy Wily Wolf.
I love a Wily Wolf.
Yeah, I'd like to call it Wily Wolf personally.
So I have some critiques here too.
Oh boy. See, this is the fun stuff. We do a little pre-show. Doesn't bring up any of the critiques in the pre-show. Brings them in live.
Yeah. Well, some of this I have to see it and experience it to really get into it.
Okay.
Okay, so you got a core set. It's got new art.
Yeah, okay.
That's cool, right?
Presumably.
But also potentially confusing, right?
Okay, sure.
So your packaging art, do you want it on your booster packs? Do you want to do all new art or all reprints? I think either answer is fine.
Okay.
But what you shouldn't do is a mix.
Okay.
Because I recognize Shivan Dragon. I don't know what that is.
Yeah, this has got to be new artwork for Black Knight here. So
If all of it's new art, then it's like, oh, okay, new art. That's kind of the thing that's going on.
okay, sure.
This is just confusing. I also want to turn our attention to the back of the booster pack. I only noticed this while we were getting set up for the show.
okay.
So this booster pack contains 15 tradable game cards, randomly assorted for play with your other Magic the Gathering cards. Okay, so far so good.
Okay.
To begin playing, you must first purchase a 60 card deck. Okay, so first of all this is telling me to do is maybe not buy this.
Sure. Well, if you do buy this, you have to buy a starter deck.
And second, they don't sell 60 card decks. There's starters, but those aren't decks. Those are just collections of cards.
I guess
you might not even be able to. There's no precons.
Yeah, that's true.
So if I was at a store and I read this, I would go, oh, okay, sure, whatever. All right, where's the 60 card deck I can buy? And the store owner goes, there isn't one.
Yeah, you can buy a starter deck, which is kind of a deck.
The details matter.
That's true.
That's the point here.
That's true.
And this packaging art and little bit of copy on the back is pretty rough.
Well, there's another product.
Oh yeah.
I'm bringing this out early ahead of time on the old no show script. If we're just gonna go, which we're gonna go off kilter, we might as well. This is the 5th edition. What is this? Advanced for 2 players. This is like what is this? What do I call this thing? I don't remember what it's called.
Let me take a look at this thing.
It's in the notes here. It's like
fifth edition cards.
It's like the 2-player thing.
Yes.
It is the 2-player starter set. There we go. It doesn't say it on the box.
Yeah, you know what's also awesome about this? This says 2 30-card decks. So even if you bought this, you still would not have a 60-card deck.
Jam them together. It's simple math. It's not that hard, really. Okay, so back on script. 5th edition was the first version of the base set to use the cosmetic changes that were introduced in Mirage. So if you're with us in Mirage episode, they kind of changed some things about the cosmetics of the cards. Cool. There's a slightly expanded text box and border. There was more visible power toughness numbers, and there was reminder text. So they made those changes here in 5th edition, the first base core set to do such a thing. Great. From 5th edition forward, non-monocolor lands started having a bronze colored text box. Again, if you've been with us for the past handful of episodes, Mirage Visions and stuff, they always kind of messed around with the land box and like the colors and a bunch of other stuff. And they decided to finally start to get away from that. This set, 5th edition, was set as a standard. This was set as a standard, and the color scheme carried on to all subsequent expansions and editions of the game until the 8th edition card frame redesign took place, which we can show you as well. So there you go. Previous expansions, land text boxes had featured unique colors for each set or block. Many cards in 5th edition received significant changes, so let's talk about these changes, because they really went for it with this core set. First of all, as we've said many times, new artwork. Okay. Changes were reportedly done for new artwork due to the reluctance of Wizards of the Coast to continue to pay for the use of many arts done for earlier sets, as originally artists were paid royalties for their artwork being used instead of a flat fee, as is apparently done nowadays for Magic art.
So I can speak a little bit to this.
Okay.
Why would you pay artists in royalties?
Okay.
It's sort of like working at a startup and being offered equity.
Okay.
It doesn't cost the company nearly as much money when you're kind of trying to get off the ground.
Yep.
And from the artist perspective, well, if this thing really blows up, I got a little slice of it.
Yep.
Part of the reason to do this sort of thing is if you end up compensating people way too much in the aftermath, you can say to yourself, that's a good problem to have.
Yeah, because we're crushing it.
Right. Well, Magic's here now. They're crushing it. But there is a line where you say to yourself, we're really going to pay this person thousands of dollars every single time we use one of these pieces of art?
Yeah, sure.
Not, even if it's a sustainable business model, it's not something you would necessarily want to do in perpetuity.
Mm-hmm.
So Magic, and this is pretty much industry standard, moved to a model where you pay an artist per piece, and different artists can have different rates or whatever, but you pay them per piece.
Yep.
The artist typically, but not always, owns the physical piece of art afterwards. They can sell it or hang it up in their house or do whatever with it. But Magic owns, or whoever owns, the rights to it.
Sure.
So they can use it for whatever reprints or packaging art or promotional materials, ads, whatever they may be, on the load screen of Magic Online, whatever.
Yeah,
they can just do whatever they want
do with it. Yep.
They own the intellectual property of the art piece, and the artist gets a flat fee and typically owns the physical art afterwards.
Sure. Which ideally that's a good relationship. So the decision to give cards new art created a big question, though. Should these cards be white border or black border?
Oh, Lord.
And we've had this type of conversation in the past with various sets because they had these weird policies. Like the reprint policy had stated that cards from expansions wouldn't be reprinted with black borders, but Wizards of the Coast had also said that new cards would always be released in black bordered limited edition. They discussed many options, including the release of a limited edition black border printing of 5th edition immediately, followed by the unlimited white bordered printing.
So nice, we'll do it twice.
It's the worst idea I've ever heard. And eventually they decided to go with just the white borders on the grounds that new art wasn't the same as new cards. They just were really good at making this specific thing so cumbersome. What color should the border be? I can just already see it, how many times they argued over lunch or in meetings over this.
And part of what's so brutal about this is this set introduces a lot of confusion wholly unrelated to this.
Yes.
Which is 4th edition and 5th edition frames look pretty close to each other in a relative sense, much closer than 4th edition and revised,
okay,
much closer than revised and unlimited, et cetera, et cetera.
Yep.
And if part of the point of the core set is for what's legal in standard, it is really important to be able to identify visually what set a card comes from.
Yeah.
And we don't have expansion symbols in the core set yet.
True.
They have them on the expansions, Arabian Nights and all the way down the line.
Mm-hmm.
They have expansion symbols, but they don't start doing this for the core sets until 6th edition.
Yep.
So you look at a Birds of Paradise, unless you look at the copyright date, you probably don't know what set it came from. And you really need to know what set it came from because you don't know if that Birds of Paradise is legal and standard or not.
Sure. Yeah. This is just the thing that seems like they would just go round after round about white border versus black border. Well, it's a new printing. So I cannot imagine someone going, yeah, so the first printing of the set will be black border and then every subsequent printing of 5th edition afterward will be white border. What?
I would auto decline if I worked there at the time. Auto decline any meeting that talks about the borders.
Yeah,
we've sunk so much time into this. We're not doing anything that's adding any clarity. In fact, every time we go back and talk about this, we're reducing clarity.
Yes,
there's got to be a better use of our time and energy.
Now you mentioned that the core sets did not have a expansion symbol.
Mm-hmm.
Well, simplified Chinese 5th edition was printed with a V symbol on each card. So
cool.
Take that.
Step in the right direction.
That's right. Now, most of you probably didn't know, or some number of you, most might be hyperbolic, that there was a simplified Chinese 5th edition. It was the only language of the 10 in which the set was printed to feature an expansion symbol. It was released in 1998. Remember, the set was released in 1997, about halfway between the releases of 5th edition and 6th edition in English. And the expansion symbols were color-coded by rarity, just like they are in all recent sets. Now, why did it begin here? I do not have the slightest idea, but it did. This is where it started, with the color-coded by rarity expansion symbols and just putting expansion symbols on core set cards, which, look, this is how it is now, so this was a good thing to be doing. It's just, why with this particular product? I don't know, but that's what they chose to do.
You have an idea. Sometimes it's a good idea. You just got to jam it in there the first time you get an opportunity.
Yeah, sure. Maybe the stakes were low because it's like a smaller printing of the set. I don't know. New flavor text. Let's talk about that. Due to popular demand, Wizards of the Coast included more quotes from classical Earth literature rather than sticking exclusively with the Dominarian sources used in the expansion sets. The flavor text team was headed up by Domina Continuity Coordinator, that's a mouthful, Pete Venters. New pieces were written to replace boring text from earlier sets or character quotations that were not readily understandable outside of a particular expansion. And additionally, flavor text appeared on cards that lacked flavor text previously. So, for you flavor text fans out there, of which I know there are quite a few, there you go. It's in the house now.
It's interesting, the critique there, because if you go back to Alpha, let's say, a lot of the flavor text does speak to the world, but it doesn't require any familiarity with the world to understand what's being expressed. Mon's Goblin Raiders talks about the Goblin Raiders of Mons.
Sure.
And that's, you have Merfolk of the Pearl.
It's deep.
Yeah, you have Merfolk of the Pearl Trident, Banalish Hero. All of these are just giving you a little snippet of the world. It's sort of self-explanatory. It's just a little story. It doesn't require you to know anything else about magic to know what's being communicated. There is a fair amount of real-world text littered throughout early Magic.
Mm-hmm.
I think Legends is pretty heavy on it, but it's all over the place. I think a little of that goes a long way. I don't mind it infrequently, but if you're going to use the space on the card, I think it's better to tell a story about the world you're trying to build rather than connect it to some piece of Shakespeare or the Bible or wherever they pulled flavor text from back in the day.
I would agree with that. Rules text on all cards was revised for clarity and consistency with the 5th edition rules. And then cards still have white borders, and copyright 1997 is on the base of the cards so that you know that they're from 5th edition. So those, that was quite a bit, are the facts of 5th edition. Now, I did mention that we're going to get to the rules changes, because the rules changes from 5th edition, which we went over, I believe it was in the Mirage episode, but they were kind of introduced then, and they were called the 5th edition rules, even though 5th edition wasn't out yet, which is really weird. But 5th edition is here, so we're going to go over the changes from the 5th edition rules right after this. All right, everybody. it is time to go over the rules changes that were implemented with 5th edition. These are all good things, in my opinion. It kind of clears a lot of stuff up.
Sure, there's a lot of ambiguity in Magic's early rules.
Yeah, now it's not perfect. I think over time, the rules managers have made things pretty clear on how the game is meant to be played. It was a little bit more muddy and murky back in the day, but this is an attempt to provide some clarity. So, the developers of 5th edition recognized that parts of the existing rules were far more complex than needed to be. No kidding. To fix this problem, they went through the rules and removed several elements that were either confusing, counterintuitive, or a waste of time. The third one probably the most important. They also added a couple of rules to eliminate some loopholes that only rules lawyers understood and abused that were heavily disliked by players. Okay, so new terminology from 5th edition rules. There's combat damage. This was the term now used to refer to damage dealt during damage dealing. All cards that referred to damage in combat, such as fog, gaseous form, now referred to combat damage.
Really good update. You wanted those things to be demarcated anyway. Also, damage dealt in combat is confusing because I attack you, you block, and before damage I go use Prodigal Sorcerer.
Yeah.
Is that damage dealt in combat or is that not? Combat damage makes it a lot clearer what's being referred to.
We agree. Generic mana. This term referred to mana required for casting cost, activation cost, etc. that doesn't need to be any specific color. For example, Disenchant was now said to cost 1 white and 1 generic mana. Now, in my time of playing Magic for 25-ish plus years, I've never used the term generic mana.
I've never heard it. I've heard Disenchant described as a white and a colorless.
Yep.
I have heard Disenchant described as white 1.
Yep. I've
heard Disenchant described as 1 and a white.
That's how I would say it.
I've never heard anyone use the word generic, but whatever.
Okay. Landhome. Landhome described those creatures that depended on having a certain type of land in play to survive an attack. For example, Sea Serpent, might be right there, had Island Home.
You can just not do this. This is another, like, not meeting the bar of... I also don't like Island Home very much as a word because Island Home meaning I need to have an island for my Sea Serpent to stay alive.
Yeah.
Cool. I'm on board. That makes enough sense.
Okay.
But it also refers to you need to have an island for me to attack you.
Yep.
Once I'm attacking you, I'm no longer home. I'm out on an adventure somewhere.
That is technically true.
So
I'm going to do a quick Sea Serpent Google.
Yeah, you go ahead.
I haven't looked at this. It's like 6 mana, 6/6?
5/5.
5. Oh, my
5.
bad.
Yeah.
That's my bad.
Yeah.
Didn't mean to offend.
You got to make sure Mahamoti is cool, you know?
True. Okay, here we go. Let me get this bad boy up here. Serpent cannot attack unless opponent has islands in play. Serpent is destroyed immediately if at any time controller has no islands in play.
So it's bad design space anyway.
Okay.
Because I need to have an island to keep this sea creature around.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, I don't really know if the juice is worth the squeeze there.
Okay.
Because I'm already playing a blue deck. Like, I probably have an island for my 6 mana creature.
Hypothetically.
And if I don't, I probably just got Armageddon or something. Why am I being punished for that?
Super fun.
But there's at least a story there that is reasonable.
Okay.
But I don't have any agency over whether or not you're playing blue.
Yeah.
So the idea that my creature being able to attack, not talking evasion, we're talking able to attack at all,
Yep.
is predicated on what lands you have. We're already talking, like, how many of these do you think we're going to do?
Sure.
There's one big sea creature we want to tell a story. Okay, sure. The second one, you're starting to get some eyebrows from me.
Kind of the same story.
And then we're going to keyword it, which implies that we're going to do a lot of it. And then we're going to choose a keyword that doesn't really communicate the full extent of what's going on here.
Sure.
Fast forward, Magic doesn't do a lot of this anymore.
No, I don't do like any
and,
of that stuff.
Not a huge surprise.
Legendary. Artifacts and enchantments can now be legendary, but creatures were still referred to as legends.
Okay, sure.
All right. Protection. A creature could now have protection from anything, not just from colors. So instants, enchantments, creatures, etc.
Yeah, the protection rules are a little cumbersome, and people got confused by them a lot early on. It's why does Wrath of God kill Black Knight, but Earthquake doesn't kill a creature of protection from red? That was like a
totally fair question.
That was one of the most medium investment player type of questions that someone would have.
Okay.
But a nice thing about the protection rules is they do actually accommodate protection from other card types pretty cleanly.
Yep.
It's like you can't target it, can't deal damage, can't be dealt damage by it. Okay, wow, that actually kind of works with enchantments and instants and sorceries and all sorts of stuff. So I don't know how much of the protection from blah you want to be doing because it's complicated and a lot of times it doesn't play all that well.
Mm-hmm.
But it is a nice little discovery that, the protection rules actually kind of works with this stuff too.
And remember, nowadays, we don't really see protection from on a lot of stuff.
Pretty rare.
It's pretty rare. It's pretty rare nowadays. Global and local enchantments. So enchantments that were played on other permanents were referred to as local enchantments. Those that were simply put into play were called global enchantments.
I brought this up in the Mirage episode. It is so unacceptable to have global enchantments and enchant worlds and have them not be the same thing. It's the same word.
Yeah.
And enchant world comes along with a lot of rules baggage.
It does.
This is really bad.
Yeah.
Now, if you wanted to say, if you want to go, we have local enchantments and enchantments. Everything is an enchantment at a baseline. Local enchantments are also enchantments, but if you refer to local enchantments, it only talks about auras.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. You can kind of talk me into that.
Yep.
But using global enchantment at a baseline is insanity.
Let's talk about the play draw rule. For several months, an optional rule was in effect for DCI sanctioned tournaments, stating that when whichever player took the first turn of the game, they skipped their draw phase for that turn. And as everybody knows who's probably watching this show, that's the rule now.
I really like this rule. One, because it does help balance the advantage of going first.
Yes.
Doesn't get you all the way there, but it's a step in the right direction.
Mm-hmm.
But more importantly, it makes sense. So on the first turn of the game, I'm going first, right? There's no need for an untap.
Yep.
There's no need for an upkeep.
Yep.
So skipping ahead into the main phase feels pretty natural because a lot of the stuff that comes before that has no application.
Yep.
Once we get to your turn, well, now things could be happening on your upkeep. Maybe you're untapping something you put into play on my turn for 0, whatever. And now you draw because you're taking a full turn.
Yep.
So it's not just a arbitrary hack to try to balance it out. It's not like I start at 17 if I go first.
Yeah, sure.
It actually kind of makes sense in the rules. And so it's a pretty easy thing to get on board with.
Let's talk about the turn structure. End of turn. One of the counterintuitive elements of the 4th edition rules was that effects that happened, quote, at end of turn, end quote, occurred before effects that lasted, quote, until end of turn, quote, wore off. In 5th edition, this procedure was corrected by moving the at end of turn effects to the very end of the turn. Moving the resolution of such effects out of the end phase removed any need for that phase, so the developers collapsed that phase and healed creatures into a single phase called cleanup. And note that fast effects were illegal during cleanup just as they were during healed creatures, so the last chance to play fast effects was now discard, and before the player discarded down to 7. So basically, if you've played any competitive Magic, like Patrick and I have, what effectively happens is, you say, I'm going to go to my end step. That's when like the end of turn stuff kind of takes care of itself. And then you go to cleanup, and part of the cleanup phase is discarding. So a lot of the time, like, let's say you're mana screwed and you go, I need to discard for the turn. And then someone goes, okay, hold on, I need to play my effects. So, they might play an instant or play a creature end of turn or activate something, right? But like once you go to discard, which is part of the cleanup step, that's the last thing that happens for the turn. So you have your opportunity at end of turn before cleanup takes place to do things. And this is a way to make that a lot more clear.
The less of a spotlight you can put on end of turn, the better.
I would agree.
So sure, fine.
Let's go to mana and the mana pool. There were mana sources, and those were a new category of abilities. They included the ability of lands to be tapped for mana and all abilities that provide mana as interrupts. For example, Llanowar Elves' ability is now considered a mana source, but the ability of Ice Cauldron is not. Mana sources may be used whenever desired and may not be interrupted. There's no gap between playing the ability and resolving it. For example, you can't rust a Mox. Only continuous effects can stop a mana source from producing mana. So basically, you can't respond to me tapping mana. That's all.
Well, it starts to break down when you're talking about Dark Ritual and Llanowar Elves.
Yeah.
Because I tap my Llanowar Elf, and I have a thing that triggers whenever I tap a creature.
Okay, sure.
You cast Dark Ritual,
Yep.
and you have a creature with prowess.
Okay.
Let's say. So in Magic's rules at a baseline, I do this thing, and then the trigger goes on the stack.
Yep.
But the confusing part here is, well, if you cast a Dark Ritual and you have a Monastery Swiftspear, let's say,
Okay.
do I now have an opportunity to counter your Dark Ritual because there's a trigger on the stack and I can respond?
Sure.
Or are we in some sort of weird split second world where anything that is generated by a trigger based on casting a spell, tapping an elf, even tapping a land, causes me to have a response window in one world and not in the other?
Yeah.
Horrendous.
And this is back when Dark Ritual was a mana source.
Right.
Not an instant.
Yeah, so it's I appreciate the logic that's underpinning this, which is we don't let people respond to people tapping lands. Therefore, why would Llanowar Elves and Dark Ritual work differently? Unfortunately, the edge case of this stuff starts breaking down really badly.
Yep.
Like your Dark Ritual is counterable or not, depending if you have a trigger in play that does something, or it's not counterable in all instances, and then is it just split second on all the triggers? Like, what's going on here?
Yeah, which is, you don't want that to happen.
Yeah, so it's just better to say, yeah, Dark Ritual is an instant. You can counterspell it. That's the rule.
Yeah.
Fine.
Mana burn was reverted to loss of life, so it couldn't be prevented or redirected. Now, one of the things I love about this show is there's a handful of you out there who started during the pandemic, maybe before that in Cons of Tarkir. You just have no idea what mana burn is.
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love it because mana burn is effectively you add mana to your mana pool and you don't use it and you take damage. And so that was a big part of things in the early stages of the game and not that big a part of things when I started my competitive journey, but it was still part of the game. I'm naturally thinking about a card like Pulse of the Forge right now.
Yes.
Or Pulse of the Fields and stuff like that. Which again, if you look at a card like Pulse of the Forge, I'm assuming it's going to be between us right now. What you would do? Did you play this deck?
Of course.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? Of course, I play with Pulse of the Forge.
Look, I don't know, man. I don't know if you were on a break then.
You know
what you would do is you would effectively just mana burn yourself. Like you're in main phase 1, you're like, I had some mana on my mana pool, don't use it, take some damage. Okay, cool. So like my life is low. All right, pulse you, get it back. And this actually made Pulse of the Forge a busted card in limited, even though it can't target creatures.
Mm-hmm.
It's just 4 upstairs, and if you manage your life total with mana burn correctly, then your opponent really couldn't do anything about it. And it's not really how the card was meant to be played. And so we haven't gone to the full blown change of like mana burn doesn't exist anymore. But this was an attempt to at least clean mana burn up a little bit.
Yeah, I think this is a step in the right direction.
Ish.
I guess.
Ish.
Came up sometimes back in the day because of Mana Flare, Heartbeat of Spring type of stuff.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Especially if your opponent wasn't used to playing against it.
Yep.
They tap 3 for their 3-drop, and you're like, okay, you take 3.
Yeah.
That came up some amount of time.
Oops.
I think that if you have something that's basically an external part of the rules, it makes sense to have that interact with the least number of things that are possible. Okay. So, for example, a spell that is countered by having no legal targets does not count as a spell being countered for the purposes of something like Brawl. Sure. You really don't want those things intersecting. It gets messy.
Yep.
And so with Mana Burn, once it's dealing damage, now the possibility space of things getting prevented or redirected is a lot higher. And that's just something you really don't want going on. So I think Loss of Life is a step in the right direction, though not the entirely correct step, which is get rid of this.
And I see you out there in the YouTube comments of the Resleevables Tournament Edition. First of all, thanks for watching. Second of all, yeah, we're playing with the current rules. I think it's obvious that we're not playing with Mana Burn, but we always get comments that are just like, you should have Mana Burn for 2. No.
Also, all the times they're like, you should have Mana Burn for 2.
What to play the turn different.
I had a factory in play. I would have just dumped it into the factory.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing going on here.
We're not playing with Mana Burn in the Resleevables Tournament Edition ever. It's awful. All right, special costs. Sorry, I had to get that off of my chest. My fibble thip. The list of costs that could appear on the left side of the colon in cost colon effect was greatly expanded. For example, in older editions, only mana symbols and tap symbols could appear on the left side of the colon. Now anything could appear there, including paying life, sacrifices, and tapping permanents. The text of greed would not be black, comma, pay to life, colon, draw a card. So basically they cleaned up what was possible for paying costs.
Yeah, it's this is a pretty bad template to put onto spells because it implies that you can be doing it more than one time.
Yeah.
So Goblin Grenade would read something like R, sack a goblin, deal 5 damage. It sort of implies that maybe you can do it more than once.
Sure.
It's just better to use as an additional cost on spells. But this template more or less is what exists on permanents nowadays, and I think that's fine.
And if it hasn't happened yet, you could look at the old version of Greed and then an updated version of Greed to see exactly what we mean. Probably on the screen for you right now. All right, last thing to note here. In order to introduce all of these changes, this is where this came in. Where'd I put it? There it is. Bang. The Magic the Gathering 5th edition trading card game for 2 players advanced level product. Says nothing about it being a 2-player starter set. I'm going to read the back real quick. Didn't plan on doing this. This set is designed for experienced Magic the Gathering Portal players looking to add new strategies and play options to their game. You can play with these decks out of the box or combine them with other Magic the Gathering cards. Object of the game. Magic the Gathering is a card game in which 2 or more players duel for control of a magical plane. Reduce your opponent's score from 20 to 0 before he or she does the same to you. This set contains, which I have in my notes here, but I'm going to read it off the back of the box, 2 30-card ready-to-play decks of 5th edition cards. An oversized rulebook for easy reference. What?
Oh, yeah, the rulebook.
Yeah.
Awesome.
A play guide to walk you through the first game, and 1 15-card 5th edition booster pack. Now, it's weird to me that it says this set is designed for experienced Magic the Gathering Portal players.
Yeah, so Portal is supposed to be the introductory product. Then 5th edition is the advanced product. Now you're an experienced Portal player. You're now advanced.
First of all, we're product flooded.
And then after you get done with this ordeal, now you're an expert player and you're ready to buy boosters of.
But didn't this come out before Portal? Right?
I don't know. Maybe they were looking ahead.
You're right. Okay, hold on. So now I got.
It's not the way that I would do an introductory product,
well,
so I can't really.
Obviously,
I can't really speak to it.
Oh, really? This is how you would do this? Hold on a second. Now I don't want to say I'm confused. I just want to make sure of something real quick because I was pretty sure. Okay, here it comes. Here comes the Portal script. May 1st, 1997. Okay. That's when Portal came out. And now let's go to 5th edition, which is March 24th. Yeah, so it's weird that it references Portal. Oh, well.
Whatever.
That is what it is.
Maybe this came out months after the 5th edition set came out.
I mean, also don't forget that the 5th edition rules were introduced in Mirage.
I know.
So
it's
they
a
just
mess.
do things in random order. Okay, anyway. Let's get this thing right back on track.
I really love 230 card decks, and it's like, okay, those aren't legal.
Yep.
And then you get a booster, and it doesn't say anywhere if the deck has to be 30 cards or not.
True.
So am I even allowed to add the cards, or do I have to cut stuff? They
You
don't
guys-
make them like they used to.
You guys might be wondering yourself right now, what's in these decks? We're going to find out because Patrick and I are going to play against each other. with these decks.
I'll wager that our game comes down to decking.
Almost assuredly.
Yeah, for sure. There's no way there's enough removal in these decks.
Yeah. So that's the next segment of the show. We're going to go to the other Resleevable studio and go over the deck list and play these really good 30-card decks right after this. All right, everybody. It is time. We are going to go over the 5th edition 2-player starter kit.
Yeah.
You want to call it a kit?
Everything that you and a friend need to not really play or understand the rules.
Yes, this is perfect. So Patrick, you found this on the internet.
Mhm.
I put in a request. This guy, he takes care of the purchasing of all the things, and he can find them all. So here's the box. We read the text on the back of the box during the episode. Great, a Richard Garfield game. But what comes in the box? Well, we went over it in the episode as well. But we got the actual rule book. Okay, we got a little play guide. I like how it says in big text, read this booklet when you're ready to learn how to play.
Confusing because it also comes with a rule book.
Yeah,
Which one do I read first?
I would agree. There's a play guide and a rule book. That's a little strange. We got 2 30-card decks, which we're going to go over in a second. And look how nice they are. You get a boosty.
Which is really great when it's 2 30-card decks because it's not a 60-card deck.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you chop up the cards?
Don't know.
I suppose it's by color, right? Because as we'll get into in a moment, we have all 5 colors are represented between the two decks.
Yes, as they should be. As they should be. So one deck is 3 colors, one deck is 2 colors. Is there a deck you'd like to start with first to go over?
The Naya deck.
Okay, we're going to use the term Naya here loosely. So we're going to bring up the first deck here. It's got 5 mountains, 3 plains, 3 forests, and a city of brass.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's a nice little rare there. We got 10 creatures, 7 spells, and 1 artifact. If there's anything that you would like to highlight, by all means.
Okay, well, there's a few things. One is City of Brass, not a very appealing card to give to a new player. Now, it's nice in a 3-color context. We know it's a powerful card, but lands that deal damage to are extremely unappealing to new players.
Sure.
You're better off giving them basically anything else.
Sure. Okay.
Even if City of Brass is good in the context.
I bet if they could do it over again, that would be an Evolving Wilds.
Right.
Right.
Much better. And it's not a power level thing because Evolving Wilds is a lot weaker than City of Brass.
Yep.
But in the context of this sort of new player experience, you want to get away from the negative costing. Do I really want to use this thing sort of experience?
Sure.
A lot of vanilla creatures. Kind of odd to do both Grizzly Bears and Pearl Unicorn because one's just worse than the other. I guess there is some sort of color pie definition thing going on here, but again, sort of skeptical of that. Not a huge fan of fire breathing and a bunch of lands that don't make red mana.
Okay.
Circle of Protection Black.
That's the one for
It's
me.
an odd inclusion.
Mhm.
I'm not confident this deck can really ever get the game over with because
Okay.
there's so little evasion and so little removal. But at least the cards are relatively simple. There's nothing in here that's very confusing for a new player, and that is a place where starter products over the years, Magic and otherwise, have made some bad bets.
Sure.
Just get people through the game, have them kind of understand where the fun and strategy is coming from. I think this deck is, if anything, too simple,
Okay.
but it is definitely not too complicated, which is usually where the mistakes happen.
Also, have them understand where the fun does not come from. Circle Protection Black.
Very weird inclusion.
They couldn't help themselves.
No, they can't.
They just keep printing and reprinting these cards. All right. The second deck is the, I'm going to call it a Dimir strategy,
Mhm.
since it is blue and black. 12 lands, 6 swamps and 6 islands. Got 12 creatures. I bet Prodigal Sorcerer is the best of the bunch if I had to guess. Along with 4 spells and 2 artifacts. Any notes here?
Yeah, I'll call out a few things. Pretty weird to do Bog Rats with no walls in the opposing deck. Pretty weird to do the Bog Wraith with no swamps in the opposing deck. I'm really skeptical of Counterspell and an introductory level product because what does counter target spell mean?
That's probably weird for new gamers to figure out.
There's just no reason to do it.
Sure.
So you could replace that with something else. You know, there's, again, just unreasonable demands on the colored mana situation, Frozen Shade, and 2-color deck. Good things that are going on here, I guess, if I have to strain, is, again, the cards are pretty simple. There's actually a healthy amount of evasion here. Between the two decks, even though the cards are relatively simple, you do get a sense of what each of the colors are about. There is some definition being expressed.
Okay.
But again, this is miserable and a nightmare, and these games are going to be rough.
Games or game?
We'll see how the first one goes.
Okay. Let's get the product out of here. Decks are sleeved up. We are actually about to play with these. You can choose. Which deck would you like? I'm a very nice individual.
The mirror's closer.
Okay. All right. I will take Mon's Goblin Raiders and Friends, and we are going to shuffle these up and get ready to play. Here comes a swift cutscene.
Yeah.
All right. We have found hands that we like, that they work. Okay. High roll as always. A 7. 6. Tough.
All right, I'll draw.
Okay.
Okay.
Good luck.
Good luck.
Good luck. Very smart. Very smart.
Did you see that one coming?
You're about to see something coming. 19. Wow. Draw, huh?
Oh no.
Your turn.
You aren't kidding. You did have the nut hand. Island, go.
Whoop, baby. Oh my. I'm going to just curve you out of the game. You're going to lose. This isn't even going to be fun. That'll be a Mon's Goblin Raiders. So I'm going to go to 18. Grizzly Bear, your turn.
Bird Raiders, go.
2-3.
Yeah, 2-3. End of my turn. Setting aside the turn it comes into play.
Yeah.
If I didn't attack, I take 2.
Okay, gotcha. Bonk. Kill Giant. 17.
Skill Giant.
Yeah, this is. I'm just curving you right out. Your turn.
Yeah, this is like the best possible hand, right?
Yeah, actually, this is better than most decks I draft now. So, just the old 1, 2, 3, 4.
Time to set up shop.
Okay. Let's see what we got here.
Play Soul Barrier.
All right, remind me.
So whenever you successfully summon a creature, again, additional confusion with cast spell in the deck,
Okay.
you either take 2 or pay 2.
Got it. Okay.
And I take 2 from Merc Raiders.
Okay. All right. So you're at 18.
Yep.
I'll draw. I'll play a Plains.
I will block Grizzly Bears.
Bong.
Okay.
I'll take 1. I'm at 16. Your creature's dead.
Taking 5.
You're gonna take 5. You're at 13. And then my big follow-up, the Samite Healer.
Trigger Soul Barrier.
I take 2.
Okay.
You're at 14. Your turn. That's all I got.
You're hellbent.
I am hellbent. Just played multiple spells every turn.
I'll play Bog Imp.
Okay. Okay.
It's your turn.
Okay. With a flourish.
With a flourish.
Yes. Okay. All right. I'm gonna untap. I'm gonna draw. I'm gonna attack with everything except for my Samite Healer.
And what am I at?
I have you at 13 to my 14. City of Brass proving to be very useful.
Oh yeah, it's been awesome this
Yeah,
game.
really good. Oh no, removal spell?
I'm gonna terror your Hill Giant.
All right, Hill Giant down.
Good lucks.
All right, you are going to take 4. You're at 9. It's your turn.
Combat.
Yeah. I'm going to prevent 1 to me.
Sure. Play Valdalian Soldiers.
Okay, that's a 1-2.
Yeah, it
Okay.
is.
All right.
And I'll play Soulnet.
All right, and that is...
Pay 1 to gain 1, only if a creature is put into the graveyard.
Okay, got it.
But it's once per creature. So if 2 trade, I can pay 2.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
Go.
All right.
Starting to get the vice scripts.
You took care of the Hill Giant. That was my best thing.
I know. Now we settle in.
All right, I'm going to play a forest.
Okay.
1-2, huh? Oh. All board. Here I come.
All right, I'll block Llanowar Elves.
All right, I'm going to prevent the 1 damage.
Sure.
Okay.
3.
Yeah, I got you at 6.
Yep.
It's your turn. Your turn. Starting to get a hold of it a little bit. I like that we can take this game extremely serious.
Of course.
This exact game.
Be dense.
All right, 13.
The Merfolk of the Pearl Trident.
Okay.
Go.
I'll draw. That one wasn't very good. Might be time for me to settle in. Nah, we attack. We're attacking. How bad could this be? Okay.
Block as such.
All right, I am going to. I'm gonna save this.
Okay, so we're looking at a trade here,
Yeah,
and I'm taking 2.
correct.
I'm gonna trigger Soul Net twice.
All right, so you go down to 4 and then back up to 6.
Yep.
And then
These
this
trade. This
Yep.
these trade.
Yep.
Pull this back.
Yep. All right,
Okay.
go ahead. Go ahead. I've been burned through my giant growth.
Oh my god.
Oh no. Oh no. All right, I'm
2 coming across.
I'm at 11. I'm at 11. Okay.
Phantom Monster.
Oh no!
Go ahead.
That's the biggest thing on
I
earth.
know. That was just a huge draw.
Okay.
Paid off for going second.
Okay. All right. Ooh. Okay. All right. Okay. Pearl Unicorn.
Trigger
I'm gonna
Soul
pay the
Barrier.
barrier. I'm gonna
Okay.
pay the barrier.
Fan
I'm
barrier.
not gonna get that one by me. All right, it's your turn. Not good. It's not good. Just saying. Both?
Yeah.
All right, prevent one.
All right, 3.
I'm 8. Another spell.
Log Wraith. Go.
What is that? 3/3?
3 Swamp Walk. You know what you could use right now? The Circle
I
Black.
could do circle black. really
Circle
bad.
Black settle back in.
Okay. Good draw.
Yeah.
Ooh. This one's a little late. It might be too late.
Is it the Righteousness? You got my deck with nothing but flyers.
No, I have a little something else here. I have myself a Dwarven Warriors.
Trigger Soul Barrier.
Yeah, I'm gonna pay.
Dwarven Warrior is not bad.
Yeah, it might be too late though. I mean, you got this big flyer, this Phantom monster. All right, no good attacks. Go ahead. Oof.
Evasion team over here.
Nice, well done.
You're at 8.
I am an 8 to your 6. What is this?
Unholy
Oh my
Strength.
god!
Unholy Strength. I'll attack.
All right, prevent 1.
Take 4.
I'm at 4.
Go.
Oh no. I don't even know if I have a good draw. You're at 6?
So I have 3 blocks to 3 potential blocks. So I would incinerate is not lethal.
Oh.
And you can't kill the Phantom Monster
I
anyway.
can't kill the Phantom monster.
Played this so tight.
Yeah. You know? Man.
Oh man.
Man, just came up a little short. Great game.
Great game.
Great game.
Soul Barrier. Guess dealt 2. Soul that gained.
Gained 2. Yep. Circle Protection Black, a little late to the party.
Yeah.
One could argue. Yeah, just what could I have done?
Yeah, probably nothing. You played 1 instant that
Yep.
game, so it's not like
Let's see. What was I? Oh, see, this is even this. This is what we needed.
Dancing Scimitar would have been
The
sick.
scimitar would have been
Yeah, because that plus
awesome.
the healer would have just been.
That's the brick wall right there.
Yeah.
Did I draw the righteousness the next turn, ruin you if you attack me?
What? Yeah,
You
sure.
attack me. That's that. Boy,
How many good draws are left in my deck? Rod of Ruin, Rod
Okay.
of Sorcerer, Counterspell.
Okay.
I would assume. Oh, I might have been able to kill you with the Mole Worms by going to work on your City of Brass.
Ooh, that is tough.
Did not even notice that interaction when I was going through the deck list. See, that's why you got to play the games.
Yeah.
You just never stuff just emerges.
Overall, Seems like a pretty close matchup.
Pretty close.
Yeah, seems like a pretty close matchup. The Phantom Monster might just be the best card.
It's probably. I mean, I would assume so. Yes.
I have one answer. Two? I got two answers to Phantom Monster.
What are they? Incinerate and
Scimitar.
Scimitar plus a Scimitar actually just does it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my answer to Phantom Monster. Other than that,
And Unholy Strength on Phantom Monster goes over the top of both.
yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot. So then I need one of these maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I used that already. Thought I used that pretty effectively. It's comes down to the righteousness.
As it often does.
Yeah, comes down to the righteousness. Well, I know you at home were probably wondering, what does a 2-player deck and starter set look like? Now you know.
Great games.
Now you know. Great game. Singular. This will not be going on the scoreboard. This will not be going on the third edition scoreboard. After a short break, I think we're headed over to the cycles portion of the show. See you soon. All right, everybody. We are back from that thrilling gameplay to go over the cycles of 5th edition. Now, this set doesn't have... Now, for as many cards as the set does have, over 400 of them, there's only 5 cycles in the set. And, I was thinking to myself, I was really hoping they bring back Circle Protection. Good news. They're back again. Cup, white, blue, black, red. They're all here. Why do we keep doing this? Why? Who enjoys this?
People working on the game. Bet the design team. But if you ask Bill Rose will say, I love the circles. Let's just keep firing them back in.
If you've watched Resleevables Tournament Edition, if you've watched any previous episode of the Resleevables, if you've ever played against a Circle Protection, there's nothing fun about it.
And this is how much they believed in the circles.
Okay.
They gave them new art. Now, why would that matter?
That's true.
Why would that matter? Well, as we talked about earlier in the show, they wanted to get away from the royalties of the old Magic artwork.
Okay.
So you would probably err towards commissioning new art to cards you wanted to print a bunch of times.
Okay.
Why do it for a one and done?
Yeah.
So this is an investment in the future of Circle of Protections.
It's really tough for me to believe that the folks that were designing and developing the game are playing games. Someone plays a Circle Protection like green, and it's like, all right, that's it. And it's like, that's good. That's what should happen. It's awful. It's awful.
Look, there's a lot about Magic's early design that I defend, given the era, what was known about the craft, all that.
Yeah.
Circles are not one of those things.
I know. All right, I know you like these, the Lucky Charms.
Whew.
These are cool. Each of these uncommon artifacts has a triggered ability that allows the controller to pay 1 generic mana to gain 1 life when a spell of a given color resolves. Can you name all 5?
Ivory Cup.
1.
Wooden Sphere.
2.
Throne of Bone.
3.
Iron Star.
4.
Crystal Rod.
That's all 5. Not in color order, but you did a good job.
These are so great. Fun and appealing cards. And I really like that they're in the space of I can build around it or I can use it against you if you're the color.
Yeah.
Or maybe both. Fantastic.
Let's go to the sack lands here. These are uncommon lands illustrated by Liz Danford that share the text that when this enters the battlefield, this enters the battlefield tapped, and then you can tap it for a color or you can sacrifice it and add 2 colors. Ruins of Trocare. I never know how to say the first word of the temple.
Suvianite.
Yeah, that one. Good job, partner. Ebon Stronghold, your boy, Dwarven Ruins, and then Havenwood Battleground.
Yeah.
They're in this set. These are pretty powerful cards to have in a core set.
Super busted.
Yeah.
Another cycle of cards that was not appreciated for how powerful they were at the time.
Yep.
Eventually, we get to Wrath Cycle and then Urza Saga, where they really blow the doors off of, well, what if it was tapped for 2 mana and came into play untapped?
Sure.
And then people started to get it. Then follow up in Saga. What if this land entered the battlefield untapped and tapped for 9? Okay. Well,
what's wrong with that?
So these were not appreciated for how good they were
Sure.
at the time, but
Sure.
people started to get the memo sometime around 1999 that lands that tap for more than 1 color of mana, even if they have a drawback that appears significant, probably worth looking at.
Storage lands up next, cycle number 4. These are rare lands illustrated by David Seeley that shares the text of it enters the battlefield tapped. You can choose not to untap this during your untap step. At the beginning of your upkeep, if this is tapped, put a storage counter on it, and then you can tap the land to remove any number of storage counters from it, and then you add a color of the specific mana for each storage counter removed this way. So Acacian Town, Sand Silos, Bottomless Vault, Dwarven Hold, and Hollow Trees are the 5 lands from this cycle. Bottomless Vault we saw in action in the Resleevables Tournament Edition 1995 World Championship. These are fine.
I have a soft spot for these lands. They are too weak to really play.
Okay.
Although over Magic's history, they've made versions of this, most notably, I would say Dreadship Reef, where it does start to show up a little bit.
Yep.
Lands that just enter the battlefield on tap and tap for 9, like Tolarian Academy.
Yeah.
That's rough. Don't want to do that.
Okay.
But a land that has the potential to tap for 9, but it requires a ton of investment and the other player is aware of what is going on the entire time, that's actually pretty fun. That could be a cool experience.
Sure.
We're both in on the joke, and there's a moment of anticipation of I'm sitting there, and the turn I finally am untapping it with 6 counters. You're going, oh wow, what's going to be happen to me this turn? You know, those that can be pretty cool. I don't think it's worth the bookkeeping for the most part. And again, these are too weak, but I have a soft spot for these. I think they're fun.
Last cycle, the one that folks are probably most familiar with, Pain Lands. Pretty simple. They tap for a colorless, and then you can pay a life to have them tap for one of 2 different types of mana. So, Adarkar Waste, Underground River, Sulphurous Springs, Carplusian Forest, and Old Brushland. Those are the 5. They make a reappearance here. Their first appearance, memory serves, is Ice Age.
That's right. And they did not reprint the depletion lands from Ice Age. I think Lava Tubes and Friends.
Okay.
I think that's a good call here. One, because you're reprinting the Fallen Empires lands that in some ways imitate those.
Okay.
And second, they're really weak, and you're talking about 5 more rares in the set.
Sure.
So Brushland and Underground River, those are great cards to get into people's hands. Those are great cards to have legal and standard. They're legal and standard right now. They're great.
Yeah.
Just do what they do. But I appreciate that there is some discipline about not bringing back the other 5 from Ice Age as well.
So, easy section. Those are your 5 cycles that are in 5th edition. We're going to take a short break. We've got some misprints and changes to go over. And a lot of discussion about the new artwork that's going on here. So stick and stay. We'll see you in a sec. All right, everybody. It is now time to go over some misprints, some changes. Sometimes it's trivia. I don't really ever know what to name the section. We just kind of play it by ear. I don't really have a lot here as far as misprints are concerned, but I got at least one good one. 50% of the cards, Shivan Dragon, Ironclaw Curse, Game of Chaos, Inferno, and Mana Barb. So 50% of their printings were printed with a Portuguese copyright date. Oops. Nobody's perfect. Look, the mistakes they used to make, if you look at our first handful of episodes of the show, they just buffoonery.
Yeah, if you compare it to, the artist's name is completely misspelled.
Yeah.
Or this word is a slur.
Yeah.
They're a lot better. They're a lot better about that than they used to be.
Forgot to put a card in the set.
But yes, but still not betting 1,000.
Yeah. And then Jerry, I'm gonna do the best I can. If you're watching this, Tiratilli's last name is spelled incorrectly on Drain Power. So the incorrect spelling is Tiritili. It's really tough to read all these I's and L's in my thing. Let me zoom it up. You ever see on I don't know if your phone's like this. You ever see on an airplane when you sit to someone who's like a little bit older and their text message stuff is all just like really big now on their iPhone? Getting dangerously close to that. I can see it coming on.
Need my glasses.
Yeah. When I was in my 20s, I was like, this is so embarrassing that like their text messages are just huge on their iPhone. I just zoomed it up really big on my computer. So Tiratilli's last name is technically spelled, it is spelled Tiritilli. The incorrect spelling on Drain Power is Tiritillii. I don't like mistakes. I could see how this happened.
Yeah, that's not the biggest sin.
Okay, there you go. All right, so let's talk about the following cards that had rarity shifts from their last printing to 5th edition, and I'm going to get your opinion on these rarity shifts. Are you ready?
Ready.
This assumes that you know the cards in question.
I probably do.
Okay, so let's start off with one that I actually don't know. Anti-Magic Aura was a common in Legends and is now an uncommon. Do you know Anti-Magic Aura?
I think it's some sort of enchantment you put on a creature and then it prevents non-combat damage to them or something.
Okay, so you had some of it right. So Anti-Magic Aura is 2 and a blue. Enchant creature. Enchant creature can't be the target of spells and can't be enchanted by other auras.
Okay.
So that has gone from a common to an uncommon. Your thoughts?
I don't know why you would do this in a set that still has protection from color.
Okay.
If you're going to do it, uncommon sounds right. There is a turn of phrase that I've used for many years about uncommons, which is too complicated for common, not cool enough to be rare. And
Sure.
this card is the perfect example of that.
Okay. Next up is Aronson's Aura. Do you know this card?
It's an enchantment, and I think you pay blue 3 to put it back in your hand or something, and I don't know what else it does.
All right, so it costs 2 and a white.
Okay.
Not that close. 2 and a white. You can pay a white to sacrifice an enchantment to destroy target enchantment.
Okay.
And you can pay 3 blue, so 5 total to counter target enchantment spell. Okay. So this card, that's a real card. I've never seen that card before. It was a common in Ice Age, and now it's an uncommon.
Yes, same feedback.
Okay, gotcha.
Also plays really badly.
Ashnod's Altar.
Does a sack a creature get 2 mana?
Yeah, 3 mana artifact, sack a people, get 2 generic mana.
Mm-hmm.
This was a common in Chronicles, and now it's an uncommon.
I think that sounds right.
Okay, great. A Tog, or a Tog, depending on who you are. It was a common in Revised Edition, and now it's an uncommon.
I could take it, leave it either way. I think the argument is at this period of time, Magic very rarely, if ever, did artifacts at common.
Okay.
They were uncommon plus.
Okay.
And having a card that says, hey, build your deck with a bunch of artifacts to make this work. And there's no artifacts at common. That's kind of rough.
Okay.
But it's also very simple and appealing.
Okay.
So I think a Tog is fine as an uncommon or common. Take it either way.
Okay. Next up is Death Speakers, which was an uncommon in Homelands and is now common. It's a 1 mana 1/1 pro black.
Yeah. I thought it was 2 mana.
No, single white.
Wow, sick.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Busted.
What a deal.
You're good with that change?
I don't like pro color common, but for the time period, I think it's reasonable.
Okay. Dust to Dust. Do you know this card?
Kill 2 artifacts?
Exile 2 artifacts for white 1, so 3 mana. This was a common in the dark, and now it's an uncommon.
That sounds right to me.
This feels like an uncommon.
It feels like an uncommon, and keep in mind, in a lot of these smaller sets, like the Dark and Antiquities and Arabian Nights, the rarities are already kind of in a funky place anyway.
Okay.
So I think it's fine as a quote-unquote common in the dark, but it should be an uncommon.
All right, next up is Felden's Cane.
The Shuffle-Upagus.
That's right. It was a common in Chronicles, and now it's an uncommon.
Yeah, you got to choose people for this. It's too much fun. Can't be giving it away.
People loved this card.
Oh, yeah.
Myself included.
Yeah.
Get to play with all my cards again.
Give it a good wash.
That's right. Okay, let's see what we got next. Fountain of Youth.
Oh, yeah.
Take a drink.
Yeah.
Fountain of Youth was a common in Chronicles, and now is an uncommon.
I think it's fine if you're trying to avoid artifacts at common, but if you get rid of that assumption, then I think this should be common in most worlds.
Okay. Next up is Hyperion.
Okay.
I think that's how you say this card.
I don't know what it is.
It's a 1 and a white. It's a horse. Hyperion can't block creatures with power 3 or greater unless you pay 1. And it's a 1/3. Really fascinating stuff. It was an uncommon in Ice Age, now is a common.
This is another, you're just not supposed to do this, and why did it get reprinted? But if you're going to do it, I think common is correct.
All right, Hydroblast.
Okay.
A lot of people know this card. Was an uncommon in Ice Age. Was a common in Ice Age and is now an uncommon.
Very reasonable.
It feels like an uncommon to me.
I think even compared to something like Death Speakers, it's not something you can just throw into your deck.
Okay.
And it's a really high rate.
Yep.
So I think uncommon makes the most sense.
Okay. Ley Druid. It's like the 3 mana 1/1 or 1/2 that untaps a land.
Mm-hmm.
It was an uncommon in 4th edition. It's a 1/1. Is an uncommon in 4th edition, and now it's a common.
I think it's weird to do this at the same rarity as Land War Elves. It's like too much of the same thing.
Okay.
But common's fine. It's certainly not a complexity issue.
Okay. Nature's Lore. Let's go and take a look-see at this one here. 1 and a green. Search your library for a forest card. Put that card onto the battlefield. Untapped. Pretty good. Then shuffle. Okay, sure. This card was an uncommon in Ice Age and is now a common.
That's fine.
This is back in the day where they didn't mind mana.
This is another sets 5,000 cards, so you're going to have some overlap. But this and Land War Elves and Ley Druid, it's like, can you give me a different card? I don't need 3 slightly different forms of mana acceleration.
I don't know about that. That's all green does. Power Sync was a common in Mirage, and now it's an uncommon in 5th edition.
That's correct. Uncommon is correct.
Okay.
This is way too much complexity and work for a common.
Yeah.
It's like just reading all this, and it really only matters if you would have followed up with another spell that turn. I think it's a fine design for the time period, but uncommon.
Pyroblast was a common in Ice Age and is now an uncommon.
Same deal as Hydroblast.
Great. Recall was an uncommon in Chronicles and is now rare.
People love it. It's super splashy. I think this is supposed to be a rare. It's much weaker than people realized at the time, but that's fine.
Okay. Shield Wall. That is 1 and a white instant. Creatures you control get +0/+2 until end of turn. It was an uncommon in Chronicles and is now a common.
It's correct to be common.
Okay.
Shield Wall is such a bad name when walls are
I expected it to be a wall.
Right. Because Shield Wall.
Yeah, wall's in the name.
I mean, the wall naming convention early on was Wall of Blah a lot, but that's a terrible name for an instant.
A card that regularly is making appearances in the sideboards of the Resleevables Tournament Edition. Sleight of Mind. Single blue instant. Change the text of target spell or permanent by replacing all instances of one color word with another. It was an uncommon in Ice Age and is now rare.
I guess I buy it at both rarities. It's a little rough to just keep doing this.
They love this card.
They do. I buy it at either rarity. I guess at this point you print it so many times. Would err towards uncommon, but whatever.
All right, we got 4 left. Soul Barrier, 2 and a blue enchantment. Whenever an opponent casts a creature spell, Soul Barrier deals 2 damage to that player unless they pay 2. Very blue effect.
Yeah, really fun too.
It was an uncommon in Ice Age and is now a common.
Yeah, you just want to make sure as many people get their hands on that as possible.
I don't know why this card exists. That card's the biggest color pie offender of all the cards I think we've mentioned in this segment, and it feels like it'd be more of it'd be a rare more than anything. I think.
Yeah, it'd be a rare, and it probably should be a
should not be
Orzhov card.
Yeah,
or something. Yeah. I don't really know.
Updraft. Okay, I've never seen this card before. 1 and a blue instant. Target creature gains flying until end of turn. Draw a card at the beginning of the next turn's upkeep. Okay, so a little slow trip. That means, it was from Ice Age. It was uncommon in that set and is now a common.
Sure.
All right, that's an appropriate response. Wolverine Pack was a common in Legends and is now an uncommon. This is a 4-mana, 2GG. Oh, buddy. 2GG, 2/4 Rampage Deuce.
Mm-hmm.
It's back. Rampage is back.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing you got to do in a core set is make sure you do very, very small amounts of old, cumbersome, and unpopular keywords.
Yes, please.
That's what core sets exist for.
All right, last one. Wailuli Wolf. It was a common in Arabian Nights and now it's a rare.
Take that.
It's the only one that just made the super jump from common to rare.
Yeah, I mean, it's really simple and appealing, but rare is really rough. It's like, just let people have fun with this thing. It's fun. It's not complicated.
Yeah.
Not really that good.
Yeah. I don't understand what the justification of making this rare would ever be.
Is this the only card in the list that is from Arabian Nights? Maybe there was some level of reserve list. We got to be careful about the oldest card type of thing.
Okay, let me check real quick. I think you might be onto something here. Yes, it is.
I don't know.
Yes, it is. You're right.
But yeah, Wily Wolf, that to me is a common.
I think it's a common to most people. Here we go. 194 cards from 5th edition were not printed in 4th edition. Okay? And we're going to go over all 194. No, we're not. But we want you to know that's a substantial number of cards
Oh yeah.
that were not in the previous core set and are now in this core set.
194 is
That's like an entire set.
That's a set.
Yeah. And so they just shoved a ton of cards in here. I have an entire list on my notes here. Again, we're not going over all. Check that number again, 194, because that would be insane. What's the justification behind this? That's the only question I have for you. Why do this?
Make standard appreciably different.
Okay.
Reprint some old cards that, like I said earlier, I've kind of been blown past in terms of power level for vintage, but maybe would be playable in standard.
Okay.
Maybe you would find cards, given the shape of 5th edition, maybe you would find cards from the past where you really didn't like the art and said, well, we're commissioning new pieces anyway, so we can get some new art in there.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm straining. I mean, even if you accept the premise that there should be a lot of cards in the set that are brought back, that doesn't get you to almost 200. So many.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot. All right. Last piece of this particular segment. We're going to have a little fun. So 218 cards in 5th edition had entirely new artwork. We've talked about it over the course of the episode. This is kind of the biggest thing for this set, in my opinion, is that, are there too many cards in the core set? Yeah. Is there a kind of a lot going on here with the rules changes? Yeah, even though it was introduced in Mirage, technically, and not this set. But the big thing here is the change in artwork and how many cards there are that have new artwork, which is 218 in a set that is a reprint set.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really big deal. So what we're going to do is this guy over here, Patrick, he has found 5 cards where he likes the artwork change, and he's found 5 cards where he does not like the artwork change.
Okay.
So we're going to go with the cards that you liked the change. We're going to start with Force Spike. So what is it that you like about the new Force Spike artwork?
It's an improvement over the initial piece of art, in my opinion. And there is also something about the color palette in the background contrasted with the characters in the foreground that I think adds a certain chaos and mental energy to the whole thing.
Okay.
Whereas in my opinion, the Force Spike art in Legends is a bit too literal.
Okay. Should they reprint Force Spike?
No, awful card to have legal. Awful.
You're no fun. All right. I mean, you're probably right, but all right. Next card. ASIN Bureaucrats?
Yeah.
All right. So original printing Homelands, and then 5th edition. Oh, the 5th edition printing is very different. Okay.
Yeah. So what I like, couple of things. One, it's materially different. It's not just a spin, but it's an entirely new interpretation of it.
Okay.
Second, I like the way that your eye is initially drawn to the back center, like those characters. You kind of almost miss the person in the foreground.
Yeah.
But on second inspection, then you see that there's like a different story being told.
Okay. All right. You're onto something there. Okay. Next card on your list is Greater something Heezy was it? What is this? Greater Realm of Preservation. Never heard of this card before.
So it's like a double circle.
Oh, good.
So it's 2 mana and it's circle red, circle black.
Okay.
One card.
Okay.
An issue that I have with the circle protection artwork in this set is the scenes take place in the color in question. So if you want to look at circle protection green, for example,
okay,
it looks like you're in a forest. There's like this circle of plants that presumably you're standing inside of that's protecting you.
Okay.
But that doesn't look white. It looks like a green card.
Okay.
Because it's set in a forest and it's a circle of whatever. Greater Realm of and I think that's an issue with the circles, kind of all 5 in the set.
Okay.
Greater Realm of Preservation looks like appropriate for the story being told, and it looks cool.
The artwork in this card actually is cool.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah. Okay. I've never seen this card before. Didn't even know it existed until right now.
Yeah.
So you could play Circle Red, you could play Circle Black, or you could play this.
Yeah. Or you could play this.
How many of these things do we need? What if they just start making these for every color combination? It's just there's one for white and blue, and there's one for green and white. That would be
they couldn't help themselves.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Next one, Phantasmal Terrain. Let me dig this one up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This one starts with a P. So this changes the land into something, right? Yeah. Enters the battlefield, choose a basic land type. Enchanted land is that. So we got our 4th edition artwork and we got our 5th edition. Okay, so the 5th edition one is like you're on a boat.
Yeah, but if you look under the currents, you can kind of see the
is that a mountain?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, super cool. Really
That's
subtle.
Kind of cool.
Different sort of style. You know, the centering on the image is a little awkward. It takes a little while for your eye to get oriented the right way.
Yeah.
But it is a neat little spin on the previous art.
Okay. And the last one here that you like is Evil Eyes.
Evil Eye Worms by Gore.
Yeah, you say that so easily. So you probably cast that card a lot, I would guess.
Oh, and I actually cast it alongside a card on my bottom 5 list and seen it quite a bit.
Okay. All right. So I've got the Legends version here, which is just the big eye. And then I've got this other. Okay, you like this one better.
So what I appreciate about this piece of art is the name and the creature type, and honestly the mechanics are so bizarre.
Okay.
That I think it lends itself to, this looks like someone recalling a nightmare that they are painting, or someone observing the eye interact with someone else.
Okay.
It doesn't have this first person perspective. It has this sort of like haunted Fantasia kind of element to it,
okay,
which I think is really appropriate for kind of how weird and haunting the card is.
Okay. Let's go to the cards that you dislike to change. Go ahead.
But real quick,
yes,
I played a standard deck with Evil Eye, a blue-black control deck with Evil Eye of Orms by Gore and Glacial Wall, the 07 wall.
Yep.
This was back when Fires of Yavimaya, Red Green Beatdown was really popular, and they just had
they can't get through
issue with just big blockers.
Yep.
So the Glacial Wall art on Ice Age has got the dog. It's like the wall.
Oh, I know that artwork.
Yeah, that deck I named Seeing Eye Dog. Seeing Eye Dog. This is the eye and the dog.
Do you get it?
Yeah, you would have vetoed this name if it came to the SCG tour. It's pretty good.
Pretty.
It is pretty good, at least.
Pretty high chance I would have done that. Okay, so let's take a look at Glacial Wall. Okay, I already know why you hate the new artwork, but okay, so old artwork from Ice Age, we got the dog. New one is
okay. So what I don't like about this is this art piece is going for the contrast.
Yeah.
There is a wall of ice in the middle of a desert.
Yep.
There is nothing in the piece to indicate that magic is involved.
Okay.
Like if you had a wizard, if it was sparkling a certain way, if the ice had different colored hues to it, whatever, something to indicate like, oh, this is magical.
Okay.
Then I could maybe get on board. As it is, it's just bizarre.
I mean, I can't get on board with this because the wall would just melt. Sorry.
Right.
Sorry.
But the reason the wall wouldn't melt in the story is there's a wizard or some sort of magical force is keeping it up.
Sure.
That's the whole concept of it being in a desert in the first place.
Sure.
Why does it just look like someone built it? It would just melt, to your point.
That's fair. That's fair. All right, next up. I'm going to go to Righteousness.
Yeah.
So let me fire up this one here. This is, you do not like the change.
I don't like this.
Okay, so we got our original print. Okay, so there's a million versions of this person holding the what are they holding? The sword, probably?
Yep, sword.
All right.
It appears that they're getting some blessing or inspiration.
Okay. And then I got this version where they look like they might be stabbing themselves with the sword.
It's just the same story. It's not materially different.
Okay.
And if you're gonna do this, like, you know, again, the ASIN bureaucrat example, it's a very different story being told in the art.
It's true.
And this is just kind of it isn't just that the tone is similar, but it's like stylistically very similar.
Yeah, they're kind of the same card.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even like the lighting in the background and everything. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So Righteousness done. Okay. I'm gonna go to Dark Maze next.
Yeah.
I'm clearly saving the best for last, but let's go to Dark Maze here. This will probably be up on the screen for you fine folks.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we got our Homelands print, which actually looks cool.
Yeah.
And then we have our not Homelands print, which there's nothing really dark about this.
And it's also who or what would you guess is the subject of the art piece?
I would assume it's the person in the front.
It's not,
but it's actually
in
the person
maze.
Yeah.
And it doesn't even really look like a maze.
No.
And it doesn't even really look dark.
Well, it's definitely not dark.
Yeah.
It's definitely not dark.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just
right.
it's just a pretty bad mismatch, especially in contrast to the Homelands one.
Okay. All right. Next up is Animate Wall. Now, I think I know the original version of Anime
which,
Wall.
to be fair, is not great also.
I think I remember. Yeah, and I like the original version. I think it's funny.
It is pretty funny. That's
funny.
funny. That is funny. It is funny.
Okay. So this is the new one?
Yeah, it doesn't look like a wall, doesn't look like it's animated.
There's like...
It's really straining.
There's like kind of a mouth.
It's really straining.
I mean, compared to the other one, the other one is hilarious.
Yeah, at least that's funny, right?
He's got like arms.
Yeah,
and is
face.
annoyed. Yeah.
Yeah, the face
is clearly a wall.
Yeah.
That's disappointing. Okay.
And walls are also just like, they're kind of, by definition, this is like very firm and sturdy architecture.
Yeah.
And that's what the alpha one gets really well. It is clearly a wall.
Yes.
But it has taken on some sort of humanoid characteristics.
Yeah.
Anime wall here is just, it doesn't look, it's really erratic. The color palette's all over the place. It's just way too dynamic for what the story is, and it's not clear what's going on.
And the one that spurred this all, Flight. We have the original version.
Mm-hmm.
I would say we have the improved upon version. And
it is so funny.
Clearly you disagree. Zebra to the skies.
So it's not, I love that this exists.
Okay.
But I do not think it should have existed in the first place. It's just so, like, the whole thing is so weirdly expressionless, and it looks like the zebra is superimposed on the foreground. It doesn't really look like it's flying.
What I would say is it looks like the zebra is flying against its will.
What I would have loved to have done here is just a bunch of birds flying in formation, except there's also a zebra in the back.
That would have been cool.
That would have been
pretty cool. Yeah. The zebra is part of like the migrating birds or something.
This piece of art never fails to make me laugh. It's been 25 years. It still makes me laugh each time.
It got launched out of a cannon. Well, as mentioned, there are 218 cards in 5th edition that has entirely new artwork. So if you're into that sort of thing, I recommend you dabble and do a little compare and contrast. Those are just 10 of Patrick's favorites there, likes and dislikes. So that is going to do it for our misprints, our trivia, our reprints, our blah, blah, blah section that we always do near the end of the show, which means we're heading to everybody's favorite part of the show, the award show, right after this. All right, everybody, it is time for your favorite part of the show, our favorite part of the show. It's everybody's favorite part of the show. It's the award show for 5th edition. And we are going to start, as we always do, with the Oko Thief of Crowns Award for best card in the set. You may begin.
Manifold, still just doing this, huh?
We are doing this still.
Sarah Angel. Too powerful. Gotta go.
Gone.
People complaining about it.
No more.
Manifold, fine. Run it back.
For some reason, Necropotence is in this set.
Yeah, it's really fun.
You know that?
It's so much fun. At this point, everyone knew it was busted, and they just keep doing it. And they didn't even print it that long ago.
Yeah.
Just got to keep running it back.
It is humorous looking at the conversation of cards that were removed and cards that players were frustrated by. And Necropotence is just right here. But I guess I'll say, because I wasn't around during that time, is maybe they weren't frustrated by it yet, but they're going to be.
And they were at the time also.
Okay.
This is nonsense.
Okay. We're going to move on to the Carnival of Souls Award for worst card in the set. Your answer, I'm a little upset about.
The Wretched?
Yeah.
Well, it looks cool as hell.
That's why I'm upset.
And it's fine to be upset about that. It really doesn't work because they just no block. And you can't even do the, Lurthic Basilisk thing with it because then the Wretched just dies.
It's true.
It really takes a lot for this to do anything at all.
I just really like the artwork.
The artwork is cool as hell. People played this in my local scene because the artwork was so cool.
Oh, yeah. This saw play with like my friends in the basement where it's just like, oh, man, it's drawn by Christopher Rush. Just an amazing.
Yeah, it's so cool.
Artwork. My vote for worst card in the set is Conquer. 3/RR, enchant land, gain control of target land. First of all, that's not really a red effect. Second of all, that cost a lot.
I conquered. You wouldn't believe the people that I conquered.
Okay.
Orcish Lumberjack, look it up. I'll help you if you're playing green because you know what next turn's going to look like.
Yeah.
You're
going to need some help. casting this. Ahead
Yeah,
of schedule.
I played my fair share of Conquerors. It was sweet.
We have the Doomblade Award for best non-rare in the set. Your choice.
Force Spike?
Try again. It's blue. Draws a couple of cards. Puts a couple of cards
Brainstorm.
back on top. There you go.
Yeah,
There it
cool.
is. Fun card. Not as busted back then than it is now, but
People were starting to get, with thawing glaciers as part of the mix, people were starting to understand Brainstorm plus shuffling is cracked.
okay. My choice was Dark Ritual.
Yeah.
Which goes alongside Necropotence.
Yeah.
Do you see? Really good deck builder. Thank you so much. I don't think there's need for an additional explanation on Dark Ritual, a card that will never be reprinted ever. Actually, I think I can't say this definitively. Do you know the format on Magic Arena now called Timeless? Which is like their version of some combination of like Vintage and Legacy.
This is another one of those things where it's like, I've seen some screenshots of people on Arena with going Ritual Necro.
Yeah.
And I don't even want to know what this is supposed to be.
So like, there's some, I think I'm old. My brain doesn't work that well anymore. But like, I think I saw someone post there just like, I think maybe they need to ban Dark Ritual from Timeless. It's like, oh, you think? Oh, really? What are we doing?
I'm almost positive I saw a screenshot of someone with Dark Ritual Necrobones and there was a demonic tutor in their hand.
Yeah.
It's like, what the hell's
going
is
on
this
here?
format?
Yeah. So yeah, maybe it shouldn't be legal, but whatever. It's like when in Historic they had Brainstorm legal for a little while, and then everybody cast it and destroyed the tournament. Like, probably not a great idea.
I think this is worse.
Oh, for sure.
Because Brainstorm is, you and I could have a fun game where we each have 4 Brainstorms in our deck.
Sure.
It's really hard to do that when we both have 4 Necros in our deck.
Yeah, 4 Dark Rituals. Yeah, it's probably not very fun. Let's go to the Oboro Palace in the Clouds Award for fun of one of in the set. Do you remember your answer?
This is Force Spike.
That is Force Spike, correct.
Really fun card to have exactly one of. And various cube formats reinforce this truth.
I agree. I think Force Spike should always be in the cube for what it's worth.
So good.
Force Spike and Mana Tide. Put them both in. Make people sweat. My answer to this question was Sylvan Library, which I oftentimes see as a fun of one of. I just want to make sure that I'm not crazy and that it is in the set, and it is.
Yeah, it looks identical to the 4th edition one.
Yep. So there it is. Love this card. I know that in some Legacy decks you start to see more than one copy nowadays, but it always has felt like a fun of one of to me, and it's always good when it shows up. So there you go. Mystic Confluence Award for best vintage cube card in the set. We have the same answer.
Is it Mana Vault?
It is Mana Vault. Yeah.
It's really good. Jumping ahead on by 3 mana.
Super fun card, not at all. The Smothering Tide Award for best commander card in the set.
Do you remember my note?
Your note said.
Do you remember my note?
Your note said, I don't care if this is wrong. I think that's what it said. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sylvan Library.
I assume it's legal in Commander.
It is legal in Commander.
Yeah.
I'm just saying I don't care if there's a more powerful card in here.
Oh, yeah.
Sylvan Library, it's the perfect card. Takes advantage of the fact that you have a bunch of life.
Yep.
And it's so fun for sitting around not doing anything, looking at the 3 cards you draw, trying to make a decision that ultimately doesn't matter very much, getting Dorito cheese all over the place. It's like the perfect Commander card.
My answer was Felwar Stone, which I did a little search on EDH Rec, as I oftentimes do, to find the card that's the most played in Commander from a specific set. Felwar Stone was the leader, and so shout out to EDH Rec for that information and just in general, because they're awesome.
Where was Sylvan Library on this list?
Now I have to go to the internet. Great.
So if I came in second, that's not too bad.
Okay, all right. Well, let me do it. See, nice thing. This is just a full blown advertisement for EDH Rec right now. The nice thing about EDH Rec is it's easy to go through their website. Gotta love that.
I don't mind giving some free love to something that we use and is easy to use.
Yeah, what I like about this is that it's really easy to go through their website.
I mean, I would never go here because I don't want to know what people play in Commander.
Sure.
My award is given out to my mind palace of Commander, not what actually exists.
All right, Sylvan Library. Does it show up? I gotta imagine it does. This is
Mana Barbs?
No, that's a different part.
I was gonna say if Mana Barbs in the top 10,
these people are psychos.
People got some issues.
Yeah. All right, so these are reprints. Well, what's the Felwar Stone? There's Felwar Stone. Okay, so
all right, I'm off it.
Nope.
We're gonna find it.
Sylvan Library. It's in 229,306 decks.
Is that a lot or a little?
That's a lot.
Okay, great.
That's a lot.
Sylvan Library.
Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 11th place.
Mm-hmm.
First place was Counterspell. Second place was Felwar Stone.
If there's anything I know about Commander players is that they love taking a lot of time in their draw step.
I'm just hanging out.
This is their favorite thing. Just looking at
some cards.
just admiring their work.
Pack Rat Award for best limited card in the set. We had the same answer.
Well, so there's Fireball at common. There's also Millstone.
Yeah.
I assume those are the top two. Still can't attack in this world.
I had a Fireball immediately because when I found out it was common, I just burst out laughing.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine that it's not Fireball. So there you go. Char Rumbler Award for weirdest card in the set. We have the same answer.
Is it Zer's Weirding?
It is Zer's Weirding.
This is another really strange one to reprint. Not just because the word weird is inside the card, but because the game is unbearably bad in its aftermath.
Nah, people love it. People think this is sweet. It's not sweet.
It's so...
Yeah, it's not sweet at all.
It's so bad because you can't... In a lot of spots, the issue is you can't concede.
Just gotta play it out.
Your opponent that plays Zer's Weirding might actually not be able to stop everything.
Yeah.
So you just got to play it out.
And if your time is valuable, then this sucks. So we got the Blank Award for best card name in the set. Do you remember your answer?
Birds of Paradise?
Do you remember your note with your answer?
They're all reprints, so whatever.
That is correct. Both of those things are true.
So part of the reason I love Birds of Paradise as a name is how do you symbolize all 5 colors at once and without making it super high magic? Like, how do you convey that inside of like regular creatures or people?
Okay.
And the idea of, there's this land that this bird comes from that's so verdant that you can draw any kind of mana out of it. And, the fact that there's like this really lush looking island in the background and the bird's wings are a bunch of different colors. It's just awesome. It communicates a very abstract concept in a way that's powerful and easy to understand.
Right from the jump of the game, too, which is impressive. So my answer is Eye for an Eye. There's a lot of Magic cards that have cool names. I remember my friend who taught me how to play Magic, shout out John Cross. He used to like kill me with this a lot. Yeah. It's also just kind of a cool name for a card. And like the artwork's really cool.
Yes.
The dude with like the gigantic like scimitar just like about to just mess somebody up. Big fan of that. John Avon Award for best land artwork in the set.
I gave it to the Wheatfield Plains. Wheatfield Plains.
Yes.
Card super cool. I think it's beautiful and a real shame that this one was made before foils were available. So I think this in foil would be just absurd.
This is 5th edition card number 432, that Plains.
Yeah.
So you know what I wrote down for my answer?
What?
Island Sanctuary.
Okay.
Let me tell you what's wrong with that.
It's not a land?
It's not a land. That's not a land, which means that when I got to this part of the script, I probably started getting pretty tired. So, what I'm going to say my answer is, let's see if I, I'm going to go with this snowy forest over here.
Yeah, that one's cool too.
I'm going to go with forest number 449. There you go. It is actually a nice piece of artwork. Would have been really dope as a foil too.
Yep.
I wonder if there's a foil. Oh no, there's definitely not a foil of this. That's too bad. Okay. As far as the Aurelius Fury Award and the Tarmogoyf Award for most overhyped, underhyped cards during previous season, no, they're all reprints. So what are we hyped up about, right?
Everyone knew exactly how good these cards were.
Yeah. So instead of what we're going to do is we're going to close the show down, which means we got one thing left to do. Alrighty, partner. What card won the set and why?
I mean, I guess Birds of Paradise, my vote.
Okay.
It's a nice card to give people more copies of. It's fun and popular.
Okay.
And it's a set that is noticeably lacking such things. So yeah, I don't really know where else you're supposed to go, really.
This set has no winners.
Yeah.
Given that I feel as though I have to pick a card, I also I'm going through Scryfall right now and I'm seeing some of the cards that are
just
that are blanked out. Yeah.
Also, what card won the set? You could argue it's Wily Wolf, upgraded from common to rare. That's a big step up for old Wily Wolf.
You know what? I'm just gonna give it to Shivan Dragon.
Cool.
It's a cool card. It's fine. It's whatever. You might get the sense that I am unenthused about this award, and I am. I'm going to tell you why. Because I'm going to give this set a grade. I'm not going to give it a 1. because I think the one that I've given out, Chronicles, deserves the 1.
Mm-hmm.
This set gets a 2 for me, because I really think the only thing that this set did right was decide to give some new artwork and flavor text. I think they got so much wrong with this core set. First of all, it is huge. It is so unnecessarily large for reasons that I feel like I don't quite understand. So that's number 1. Number 2 is they just started slinging cards. You were joking about being on design for this set. They're just slinging cards into this thing to the point where I don't know what the designers were doing, but more importantly, I don't know what the developers were doing, because the design is one thing. You're talking about like, I'm just going to do some reprints, pick an arbitrary number and go for it. What are the developers doing? Are they playing any games? Which I would argue they probably weren't, because they were just like, we've played with all these cards before. So what's the point of like playing with them again and testing them? We all know what they all do. The problem is that most of these cards that are coming back, and I talked about in the facts portion of the episode, the stuff that like they removed because some of the cards got banned and some of the cards were like unfun and stuff, is there's still just a ton of unfun cards to here. What's going on? So I don't understand how we got to this. Again, I like that there's new artwork because new art is cool, and apparently people were clamoring for like flavor text to be done a certain way, and so they fulfilled those things. But look, I wasn't there at the time. I've got a really hard time believing that when this went on the shelves, people were like, oh yeah, got to get me some 5th edition. I can't imagine that's true.
I think this might be one of the very few sets that I was around for and like super invested during.
Okay.
Where I did not purchase a pack.
Okay.
4th edition, we just ended up with some 4th edition because we were still out revised and like Mishra's Factory and Strip Mine. There's a few things in the set, right?
Sure.
I don't think I bought any 5th edition.
If the goal here is like get product in hand, which is why set is so large, I guess maybe theoretically mission accomplished, but I even strain to believe that's true.
Yeah.
So I think this is a really poorly done core set, with the caveat of they figured out how to do core sets later in the game's lifespan, but this is not how to do it. You're up.
I would give this set a 1.
Okay.
So we'll start at the top level of what is a core set meant to do.
Okay.
Be a jumping on point for people, in which it's actually oddly not great to do that at a set that is entirely composed of reprints.
Okay.
The set is huge, which just makes paying attention to what's going on in Standard really, really hard.
Okay.
If you're going to do some edits, some power level outlier edits, the idea that you would say no to Lightning Bolt and Swords of Plowshares and yes to Mana Vault and Necropotence
A little weird.
is unbelievable to me.
It's a little weird.
Like, some cards are going to be the best cards. What are the characteristics of the best cards? What do you want them to look like? Lightning Bolt, Sword of Plowshare, super evocative for the colors. They're instants that play relatively well. There's like good fundamental magic going on there, even if they're way overrated, even if they might not be the best choices for what should be good in Standard.
Sure.
Mana Vault and Necropotence are just like the exact opposite of what should be going on.
Yeah.
I also think some of it's the combination of size of the set. Some of it is half new artwork, half not.
Okay.
Some of it is some of the individual art pieces of the ones that are new. But I think that if I had to basically strap someone into the Clockwork Orange device that like keeps your eyeballs open, like you can't blink anymore,
Okay.
and drive someone insane just by scrolling through individual cards, and I could only pick one set to pull from, it'd be 5th edition. I think the act of just sitting in a chair and just looking at the cards, because there's so many of them, a lot of them, your reaction would be like, why on earth would they reprint this? And some of the art is so bizarre and so dissonant. I think that 5th edition is the most insanity-inducing set in Magic's history.
Okay.
And that's gonna get a 1 for me a lot of the time.
I mean, there's some cards in here that I'm going through the Scryfall thing right now on my computer that there's so many cards. I've gone through this a couple of times. I didn't even realize they're in here. Like Stasis is in here.
Yeah,
that's
great.
not fun. Memory Lapse, that's back for another run around the rosy. Just there's some really weird things going on here, and obviously getting into like the circle protections. Why are we still doing this sort of thing? Armageddon. Why are we still doing that? Which was around for a lot longer than it probably should have been. I don't think that green is particularly powerful. The artifacts are pretty bad because they've been bad for most of Magic's lifespan. They decided to put like the Urzatron in here and stuff like that. Just
Sure.
it just feels like it's weird to say that a 449 card set is thrown together, and yet it feels that way.
Well, that's what happens. Like, as the size of the set increases, and if the set is all reprints in the first place, the higher the number goes, the closer you get to literally anything available was in.
Sure.
So this number is really high. It's going to take on that tone at a certain point. And if you just cut the set by 30%, I would argue at random, like if you just randomly remove 3 out of every 10 cards, the set probably gets better.
Oh, almost assuredly.
Yeah.
This is just too much.
Yeah.
That's all this set is, just too much going on. It feels very Cheesecake Factory-esque.
Yeah.
Because why is your menu so big? Why not have it so big? For so many reasons. But there you go. That is 5th edition, everybody. So now let the shilling begin. You can subscribe to our YouTube page at youtube.com/theresleevables, where you can find our most recent episodes of the Resleevables, in which we've gone over the most recent sets before this are Mirage and Vision. So you can go check those episodes out. You can find our most recent episode of the Resleevables Tournament Edition, 1995 World Championship, where Patrick and I, the YouTube comments are really humming.
Mm-hmm.
People had no idea. They're just like, these games are horrible.
Oh, they didn't know.
They didn't have any clue. No.
When people are nostalgic for old Magic, or they talk about the shortcomings of fire design, 99 times out of 100, they don't know what is waiting for them on the other side. They just don't.
1995, Winter Orbs, Icy Manipulators, all of it. Land tax.
Yeah.
You can go watch that episode on our YouTube page right now, too, if you'd like. You can also find snippets of our Unsleeved podcast, the little snippets from each episode. You can, of course, listen to the full episodes by becoming a member of our Patreon, which we'll get to in a minute. And then you can watch our Crack-a-Pack videos, including the one that we're going to be doing for 5th edition. That's going to go up a day or two after this episode.
We're ready to go.
Yes,
so the way that works is if you subscribe over at Patreon to one of the $10 or $25 tiers, we do a Crack-a-Pack of the set that we just reviewed, and then one of our subscribers in those tiers receives a pack of that set for free as well. There's nothing you have to do in terms of signing up or notifying or whatever. If you sign up in the $10 or $25 tiers, you're automatically drawn for any of those boosters, and we got 5th edition coming down the pipeline.
Lucky you. Speaking of the Patreon, it is patreon.com/theresleevables. Patrick mentioned what happens if you're a $10 or $25 member as far as Crack-a-Packs are concerned, but don't forget that you also get access to early releases of both the Resleevables and the Resleevables Tournament Edition. You get access to our entire catalog of Unsleeved podcast, which is our Patreon exclusive podcast. And you can, if you're a fan of the old Twitter, follow us over there at twitter.com/theresleevables. And one final time, we want to let you know where Eternal lives, which is
Tales of Adventure. That's toamagic.com. And if you're on Twitter, make sure to be following Michael Caffrey, the store owner, over at TOA Michael.
What's next? Well, I teased it a little bit, but here we go. I don't know what card that is.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Okay. You've got a Portal pack. I've got the Portal starter set for 2 players. And then we'll talk more about this in the Portal episode. Someone sent us a Portal like starter pack too, which is different than this, by the way. Portal's next. It was Magic's attempt at making, how do you want to, what would you define this as?
An introductory level product.
Yes. They tried. That's for sure. That'll be the next episode of the Resleevables that we do. The next episode of the Resleevables Tournament Edition that you'll find is Pro Tour New York 1996, the first Pro Tour. You had to call to sign up.
So excited.
I am too. The Pro Tour is near and dear to our heart, and the first Pro Tour is a lot of fun to take a look at. So we'll be playing the finals of that and a whole bunch more. If you're a member of Patreon, it's a good time to it's a good time to be a member because you're going to get some exclusive content related to that particular episode of Tournament Edition. So we're all done here. That is our review of 5th edition. So for Patrick Sullivan, I am Cedric Phillips. I want to thank you guys very much for watching this episode of The Resleevables. Yeah. You know what that's for, John?
5th edition.
It's just boring.
Such a cool set.
It's not. It's pretty horrible. But here we are.
It's a stain on the art of Magic.
Okay. Red light, red light, red light, red light. Get comfortable. Okay, here we go. 5th edition introduction. Is anyone bothering me? Uh-oh. Miller? What you got, Miller? He's in Atlanta Airport. There it is. Atlanta Airport Carrabba's. Nick
Hell
Miller.
yeah.
Miller! In the Resleevables studio recording 5th edition. We loved your text so much, we're sending you a video. And by we, I mean...
How you doing? Carrabba's in the ATL? Boys living big.
That's right. This guy gets it. I hope you had a wonderful meal. I don't know where you're headed to or what Star City is making you do, but I hope it's worth your time. Any final words?
If you get to go Carrabba's, it is worth your time.
That's true. Eat well, buddy. Good to see you.